Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Brianna, aka Dollface PA, aka Brianna Moore. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. My handle is Brianna Moore on all of those social media apps. I had discussed in a prior and recent video that my content was going to be transitioning, and more specifically, I discussed wanting to do a series about finding my way as a woman in my 30s. So we can consider this episode 1 of that series. Welcome to my Finding My Way as a Woman in My 30s series. In this series, we're going to be discussing all the F's as a woman in your 30s. We're going to be talking about friendship in your 30s, fun in your 30s, finances in your 30s, fitness in your 30s, faith in your 30s, freedom in your 30s, fear in your 30s, focus in your 30s. The theme is F. This video is just generally going to be a brief overview of what to expect in this series, and I kind of just want to get into my inspiration for even wanting to discuss this. Honey, I had to get my water because I feel like I just want to sit down and talk to y'all like we're sitting on the couch talking, like we're homegirls. So the reason why I wanted to do this series is because I feel like I watch a lot of content, whether that's on TikTok, whether that's on YouTube, whatever the case may be. And I just don't feel like a lot of women are talking about this. And I don't believe that I'm the only woman who feels this way. So I kind of just wanted to create a space for conversation surrounding the topic of being a woman in your 30s and what the transition is like from your 20s to your 30s. So in all honesty, I feel like a completely different person as a woman in my 30s as opposed to the woman I was in my 20s. Y'all, please let me know if I'm the only one that feels this way. Everything is different. How I see the world is different. How I see myself is different. How I conceptualize my past experiences is different. How I see other people is different. It's almost like I'm a different person. Like, that's the only way I know how to describe it. And I'm gonna get into the specifics of that. One thing that I think has really marked the transition into my 30s is just finding out who I am. Hence the title of this series, Finding Myself as a Woman in My 30s. I feel like the majority of my 30s has been spent discovering who I am outside of the internet. So I was born in 1993. I'm 33 years old, and I feel like we're in that millennial gap where we were like the last breed of people that had some portion of our childhood and early adulthood, very early adulthood, without social media, right before like the social media era like took over. So in a way, I think millennials are uniquely positioned because we kind of get the best of both worlds. But I'm going to be very transparent and honest in this video and admit that when social media started becoming very popular, I was a young adult. I was young in college. I had no idea who I was. I was very insecure. I was always seeking outward validation, and I had absolutely no sense of self-worth beyond what other people thought of me. So I lay that groundwork because I'm sure you can see the writing on the wall for how social media became a very unhealthy thing for me in my late teens, early 20s. And that was kind of like my foundation of who I was as a woman. That was my first time being grown, being an adult, being out my mom's house. And I was basically letting society and letting social media define who I was and define my identity. And that really was pervasive through much of my 20s, probably until I was about like maybe 26, 27. I was a mess. I was truly a mess. And a lot of the decisions that I made were coming from broken places because I just was making poor decisions, because I was lacking in self-love and self-worth and self-esteem. And so, simply put, I spent my early 20s kind of wrecking my life. And I think a lot of women can probably attest to that. You get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to get myself together. Like, this is my life. This ain't no test run. Like, we only got one time to do this. And so, yes, in my early 20s, I was very broken. I was very insecure. I was very sad. I was very, honestly, just foolish. And I don't judge myself for it because everybody has to grow. But I can truly admit, and I feel like this is true for most people, but I just feel like a lot of people are not, as willing to be as honest as I am about it. The internet literally has done a number on us as a people. And a lot of the times when we have this discussion, we talk about it more so in the context of like what it's doing to the younger kids. But I think sometimes as millennials or people in our 30s, we're so quick to judge what social media is doing to Gen Z that we're not honest about how it's affected us. And I want to be honest in admitting that, like, me personally as a millennial, I was not exempt from the damage that social media did to my brain as a young 20-something. The internet tells you what you're supposed to like, what you're supposed to wear, what's popular. It defines the standard of beauty, what you're supposed to look like, what my makeup is supposed to look like, what my body is supposed to look like. Like, let's not even get into the whole BBL era. And like, now I think that era is over, and now being skinny is like popular again. Like, it's crazy what it does to the psyche of a developing brain. And I just don't think that that gets discussed enough. And I mean, if you can't already tell, I am pretty much talking about Instagram, because I feel like that is where most of that is prevalent. And it's just image. You're seeing all these images of other people. There's the pressures of like, oh my gosh, this person is doing this person is doing that, this person is traveling there, this person just got engaged, this person just had like an extravagant wedding, oh, this person just had an extravagant honeymoon, this person just had a gender reveal, this person is having this extravagant baby shower. Like, it's always just like trying to keep up with the next thing. And when you don't know who you are and you don't have a solid sense of self, that is devastating to your self-esteem, to your sense of self, and overall to your identity. And I was very much so caught up in that in my early 20s. I was caught up in it. I was always seeking the validation of other people, always chasing the likes, always chasing the followers, always like trying to have a viral post. Like, that was me. I'll admit that. It's cringe to think about, but like, I'm secure in who I am enough now to where I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done or any past season in my life. And I can admit that so many of my life decisions were made from that broken place. Just that broken place of having no sense of self. I have no idea who I am. And truthfully, I would say the area of my life in my 20s that suffered the most was my relationships. So I was constantly finding myself in unhealthy relationships with men. I would say the vast majority of the female friendships that I made in my 20s, the foundation of those friendships was a broken foundation. I was connecting with other broken women just off of mutual trauma and mutual dysfunction. The reason I bring that up is because one of the episodes of this series is going to be friendships in your 30s. And I'm going to be very honest and very vulnerable about how different my friendships look in my 30s. A lot of the friendships that I had from childhood into my 20s, and a lot of friendships that I made in my 20s, I'm no longer friends with those people anymore. And it's not because of really anything other than the fact that once I found out who I was, it was very clear to me that these people don't align with the person that I am currently, nor do these people align with the person that I want to be. These were friendships that I made out of dysfunction. We really don't have anything in common. I feel like I have to hide who I really am around you, because if I act like who I really am, you might not even like me anymore, because the only connection point that we had was our dysfunction and our immaturity and so that's a whole different episode for itself. But my friendships look very different in my 30s, unapologetically. My relationships obviously look very different. I'm happily married in a very healthy relationship, glory be to God. And I feel like the basis of healthy relationships is really just, it starts with you. It really does. And I feel like that sounds so cliche, but you cannot forge healthy, authentic, deep relationships until you know who you are. I can't connect with somebody on anything if I don't even really know what I like. And I think that's another thing that I have really, really been very intentional about in my 30s, is just discovering who I am outside of the internet. Like, I have done so many things in my 30s, just new hobbies, trying new things, going to random places. I mean, I'm going to talk about that probably in the episode where I talk about fun in my 30s. But some of the things that I've done in my 30s that I actually enjoy, I would have never even considered doing these things in my 20s because they weren't considered cool and it wasn't what everybody else does. And so I have truly enjoyed just getting to know myself, spending time with myself, exploring my talents, exploring my hobbies outside of the internet. And what I've come to find in that is I have so many interests. I actually really like myself. Like, I'm a cool girl. Like, dang, you really can do that. That's dope. Like, the more you learn about yourself, the more you love yourself. And I really feel like that is the beginning of true self-love. And when you truly have a sense of yourself, you don't need that outward validation from anybody else. So I would say that my healing journey started back in 2019, right after I turned 26. I had hit rock bottom. My life was spiraling out of control. I was still living in New York. And it was very evident to me that I needed to make a major change in my life because I was not happy with the way my life felt. And that matters. And so I began my healing journey. I got very, very serious about my faith. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ wholeheartedly. I got baptized. I got involved with church. I went to therapy for the first time, and it was incredible for me. And this was the later half of my 20s. So 26, 27 is when this process was really getting started. And I really think that it was just so instrumental for laying the groundwork for a healthy third decade for me. Because by the time I turned 30, I truly felt like a different person. I thought differently. I felt differently. I was healed from a lot of the brokenness that I created for myself in my 20s. And I was just really able to attain a true sense of self-love and self-worth for the first time in my life that did not require the outward validation of other people. And more than that, just understanding God's love for me, that really helps me to situate myself in loving myself. Getting a glimpse and understanding of how much God loves me and how unique He made me really made it easier for me to love myself, and it made me a lot less interested in the validation of other people, because truthfully, most people don't even really know you like that. Even a lot of the people that you've quote unquote been friends with for so long, like to my point of a lot of the girls that I had been girlfriends with from like my early childhood days into like my early 20s, it's like you don't even really know me for real. Like, we connected over going out, partying, drama, childish foolishness, but like you don't even like know the things I'm really interested in, or the things that are really meaningful to me, or the things of my heart. Like, there's just an intimacy that's not there. You don't even really know me like that. So why would I seek the validation of somebody that doesn't even know me, that can't even truly see the essence of who I am? It just felt sillier and sillier as I got older and got into my 30s and got more healed. It's like, I'm not seeking validation from anybody. I actually don't want your validation. I'm good. In that just comes a different confidence. There really is a different confidence that you can move through the world with. It's just like, I know who I am. I am settled in who I am. And that's not contingent on anybody else. That's contingent upon, one, what God says about me, and two, what I know about myself. So on the same topic of that, as a part of just not only really healing and really just coming out of that dysfunctional thought process of always needing to be validated by other people, many of you know, because you probably follow me on Instagram from YouTube, but my Instagram page has always been public. I had a lot of followers. Like, I really used to always keep my Instagram page public, because if anybody found me on YouTube, I wanted them to be able to easily contact me on Instagram. So I used to always be like, oh, I'm going to keep my page public, whatever the case may be. So I had maybe like 3,000 followers on Instagram. I got to a point, y'all, and this is when I knew that my growth was going to a new level. At this point, it's probably been about a year. I went on Instagram and deleted about 2,000 of my followers. Actually, I think it was like 2.3 thousand followers. It took me like 3.5 weeks to do it. I went through every single one of my followers, all 3,000 of them, one by one. And if I didn't know you, if you weren't somebody that I clearly knew, like followed me from YouTube, because those people I do know, like I can see like we've had prior conversations, or they'll like message me. So I'm not talking about like people that I'm actively mentoring with PA school, but there were so many people following me that I don't know. There were so many people following me from like prior seasons of my life that it's like, you don't even really like me for real. You don't engage with anything I do. You watch all of my stories. You watch everything that I post, but you won't like anything. You won't comment on anything. You won't even put a heart on a story. Like, I'm at a point now, I don't desire to be seen anymore. If I'm being super honest and super transparent with you guys, that also is part of the reason why I stepped away from YouTube for a while, because I just got to this place of like, honestly, what I would consider freedom, where I just no longer desire to be perceived by anyone. I was so stable and secure in who I am that I just didn't feel the need to be seen by other people. I didn't really want to share things that were going on in my life with other people. It just felt very like, ew. I don't know, like social media can give you that vibe after a while. Everything feels so performative. It feels like people are doing things just to be seen. And I was like very repelled by that. So I got to this point where it was like, I don't want to share anything. And so I eventually, started to kind of come out of that, but I knew that when I did finally come out of that and like get back on the internet and start posting again and get back on YouTube, I wanted it to be more of a controlled environment. And what I mean by that is just, I didn't want strangers to be able to watch my life like that anymore. I wanted to have a little bit more control over that. So yes, I went through and deleted 2,300 followers on Instagram. Most of them I was not even following back. And so if I went to your page and you can now see the relationship details with somebody, it tells you what pictures they've liked, what posts they've commented on. There were so many people, it's like, wow, that's weird. You've been following me for 10 years and you've never liked or commented on any of my pictures and I don't know you, you gotta go. Like, you gotta go. It just started making me feel very weird. And I just started to feel very protective over my life and my energy, whatever you want to call it. I started to really feel like that after I got married. Like, this is my real life. Like, I'm like putting my real personal life on display for strangers. Like, that just started to feel very uncomfortable for me. So I went through, deleted all the followers that I didn't know, or the ones that I did know that don't really interact, that I don't have relationships with in real life. And I made my page private. And I feel like that in itself it probably doesn't really sound like that big of a deal, but for me, that was that big of a deal, because as somebody who was always like seeking the validation of other people and the likes and the followers, that was a big deal for me to voluntarily go in and just delete all those people. But that was proof to me that like, I really don't care about that anymore. I don't care if I get 6 likes on a post. Like, I don't really care. Like, I'm not on the internet for the numbers. Like, if I'm posting something, it's just because I want to share it. Like, I'm not doing it to be performative, to be like, oh, look at me. And there has been a point in my life where I was very much like that, but I'm not like that anymore. And so there's the growth. I just feel so comfortable in the skin that I'm in. I feel so comfortable in the person that I have become. I'm always working to be better and to grow. And that just feels really good. And I can honestly say that I'm becoming a woman of God that I'm proud of. And knowing myself has truly changed not only the way I see the world, but how I show up in it. It's when you walk into a room and you know who you are, it hits different. It hits different. There is no anxiety. I know who I am. I'm not here for your approval, or your approval. Like, I'm gonna show up as who I am. And either you'll take it or leave it. Either you will love me or you won't. But one thing I will never do again is pretend to be somebody that I'm not for the approval of other people. One thing I will never ever do again is shrink myself to make other people feel more comfortable around me. I won't do it. I'm just not performing anymore. What you see is what you get. You can't lose the love of somebody who never even knew the real you anyways. They never loved the real you. They never knew the real you. So the validation of other people is very low on the priority of things that matter to me in my life, if it's on the priority list at all. So to wrap up this video about finding myself in my 30s, I feel like I have a confidence that is rooted in a healthy, realistic view of myself. I don't think too much of myself, but I also don't think too little of myself. I love myself. I'm kind to myself. I show grace towards myself. I'm not perfect. I am accountable in my relationships. When I get it wrong, I take accountability and I apologize. I water the relationships in my life, and I'm unapologetically me. And I think you can only attract the level of genuine people in your life as much as you know yourself. I need to say that better. The depth and the genuineness of people around you will only ever go as far as how well you know yourself and how authentic you are showing up in the world. I don't know if I said that any better, but I hope y'all know what I'm trying to say. All of the friendships that I lost along the way feel so insignificant in comparison to the rich relationships that I have in my life now. There's nobody in my life, and I would have never been able to say this even 3 years ago. There's no one in my life that I have to question. No one. The people around me, our relationships are so authentic and so deep and so real. The love is so real. We love each other for who they are. We show up. We are accountable. We are supportive. There is no hidden agendas. There is no jealousy. There's none of that. We love each other for real, for real. And I feel like that has been a function of me loving myself. And that's why self-love is so important. Everything that was supposed to be removed from my life removed itself from my life once I began to show up in the world as who I am. When you're authentic, you attract things in the world that are for you. And the things that are not for you fall away. Everything happens the way it's supposed to. So I low-key feel like that was like a little excerpt out of my diary versus like a little bit of therapy. But that's the type of conversations we're going to be having in this series. I really want to bring some people on my channel to have like dialogue about this discussion, because I know I cannot be the only one that feels this way. I know I'm not the only woman whose life looks very different in their 30s compared to their 20s, and it's beautiful. I'm like, dang, if 30s is like this, what is 40s gonna be like? Life ain't perfect, but it's good. I'm far from perfect, but I'm further from who I used to be, and that's a testament to the grace of God. So we'll keep this going. I think the next video I'm gonna do is gonna be on fun in your 30s. And I love you guys. I'll see you on the next one. If there's any other topics you want me to talk about as a woman in my 30s, please let me know, because I would love to do that. All right, I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.